Welcome Deep Sir to Khel Camera and Kanun, a new initiative on the lobbies where we try to simplify sports and entertainment law, not only for people in the legal fraternity, but also people who are working in these two industries so that they are not afraid of the law, but they understand how law can help them. So thank you for accepting our invitation and joining us in this section.
Thank you, Ishaan. Thank you for the invitation. Looking forward to the session. So let's begin without further ado.
Thank you. Deep Sir, can you give us a brief uh, intro about yourself, how you came into sports law, why you decided to venture into a career in sports law? How did it all start?
Right. So it's a fairly long story. I'll try to keep it very brief. So, of course, I was always interested in sports. I used to play cricket, football while growing up. And naturally, when I discovered that there is something called sports law, to be precise, I realized that there are several lawyers in the US, in different European countries who work in the sports industry. And this was back in, let's say, 2009, 10, initial years of my law school. Uh, I thought that it would be worth pursuing it. Of course, there was not a lot happening back then in India. So this was 15 years back. However, I did some research and I came across a few practitioners or firms in India which were working in the area. So I got to know of Law NK, uh,
Okay, yes.
Office of Nandan Kamath, and I did my first sports law internship at Law NK back in 2009 or 10. And that, of course, gave me a bit of clarity regarding what lawyers do, or at least a part of what lawyers do. Law NK was also, I think, fairly new at that juncture, but that gave me some clarity. So throughout law school, I tried to get more exposure, which was not very easy because back in the day, there were not a lot of conferences or moot courts, or
Right.
there weren't many internship opportunities. So anyhow, I tried to stay in touch with the industry, uh, and I completed my graduation in 2014. But I was not able to find anything in sports in 2014. But I was constantly on the lookout. I was speaking to people who were already in the industry, uh, lawyers, also non-legal professionals. Trying to get into the industry, try to find a way. I finally managed to do so in 2015. I got an opportunity to work at a sports management company based out of Delhi. Uh, I was doing some legal work for them, mostly transactional work, so reviewing contracts, drafting contracts, and such. And also, uh, I was working on the business side of things as well, working closely with the marketing team,
Okay.
for instance, which gave me some clarity regarding the industry as a whole, not only the legal aspects. Then one thing led to another. In 2017, I decided that, okay, I have had some exposure in Indian sports. Perhaps it would be wise to go abroad for my master's. And football is something I've always been interested in, and the industry especially is quite interesting. And of course, there's a fair bit of work when we talk about football, right? As compared to most sports, because of course, I think there's not much doubt about the fact that football is uh, perhaps the most popular sport in the world. So naturally, there's more work. So I went and did my master's at ISTE in 2017. I was fortunate enough to find employment after my master's. So I worked in Spain for a couple of years, a bit more than 2 years at a law office. And eventually I started my own practice, initially in Spain. Although it's been
Okay.
more than 2 years since I moved back to India and I've started my uh, law firm here in India. That
That's
just I,
nice.
I would say that that's what my journey has been like for the most part. Yes.
That's a quite interesting story, sir. Thank you. Uh, I when I was going through the profile, your profile, and preparing for the session, I saw that a majority of your work is with respect to dispute resolution in football. So, between CAS, FIFA Tribunal, and other dispute resolution bodies, what are the common or the most difficult issues or trouble that you face while representing an athlete?
I mean, there can be various challenges. And when you work as a legal professional, it's not only the legal challenges that you need to deal with. Handling clients can also be an issue. There's a time difference when you work with clients from different parts of the world. Just by way of example, tomorrow I have a virtual hearing before the football tribunal of the Irish Football Association. And the hearing is going to happen, I think, start at around like 11 p.m. IST. So there's several issues. Of course, when we talk about legal disputes, every matter throws up a new challenge. It could be regarding jurisdiction, could be regarding enforcement, could be regarding collection of evidence, and sometimes we also face trouble getting paid. You can imagine like sometimes it's very difficult. Even if a client is honest, it can be challenging for them to pay our legal fees because let's say for
Right. Yes.
instance in India you can't accept money through Western Union, and that's a method which a lot of
Mhm.
clients, especially from African countries, are very accustomed to. So there's several challenges that you need to navigate through if you want to work
Mm.
as a disputes lawyer with a global clientele.
That's, that's the harsh reality.
Yeah.
If you had the authority, or if in a very uh, dystopian world, if you had the powers, what changes would you do in the current dispute resolution framework so that it is not only favorable for the athletes but also for the people working from the legal fraternity, so that things are more streamlined?
So at the international level, like at the FIFA level, you mean, or cash, or what are you referring to, or at the domestic level?
Uh, 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 like we can take for cost at the cost level.
Yeah, I think with cash, a major issue that we face is regarding the costs. So with athletes, you can still get legal aid. Of course, it's a fairly lengthy procedure. It's quite complex as well, but you could still get legal aid. But again, I could explain with the help of an example. Let's say when we talk about clubs, okay, we recently had a case where a club wanted to appeal a disciplinary decision passed by the appeal committee of a domestic federation, the AIFF. Okay, I won't name the club, but yes, that was in India. Now,
Right.
in order to submit an appeal to CAS, the club has to pay advance of costs. One, you have to pay a court fee of 1,000 Swiss francs, which is still, I would say, somewhat affordable. But the advance of costs can be very, very high. So we are looking at somewhere around, let's say, at least 25, 30,000 USD. Okay. These are the advance of costs that you need to pay. Now, of course, if you get a favorable decision from CAS, a favorable award, the amount would in all likelihood be borne by the other parties.
Right.
Okay. But you still
Mhm.
need that capital to even approach cash. So I think that is a major hurdle that we face, especially when we are working
Mhm.
with football clubs. Because of course, when we talk about top clubs in the world, of course, the Manchester Cities and Chelsea's and Barcelona's of the world, it's not a big amount at all, 30, 40, 50,000
Right.
USD or Swiss francs. But let's say for a second division club in India, it is a fairly substantial amount. So I think that is a huge hurdle that we sometimes face because the presumption appears to be that all clubs around the world have the means to uh, pay the advance of costs that are involved if you wish to approach CAS, but that is
Right.
not the case, right? Of course, you can't just look at the top 5 or 10% of football clubs in the world. So that
Right.
is
Right.
one major obstacle, I would say. Of course, there are other hurdles as well. But yeah, I feel like perhaps if it could be possible to also provide legal aid to clubs going forward, clubs which cannot afford to pay the
Right.
cost, that would be very helpful. I don't know how feasible that is, but again, like you said, in an ideal world, that is something which I
Mhm.
would like to see happen.
Right. Right. And so is this issue limited to cars, or is there a similar hurdle at the FIFA Tribunal and other dispute resolution bodies as well at the international level?
Um, FIFA is more affordable, I would say. So employment related disputes before FIFA are typically free of cost. Okay. Uh,
Okay.
but let's say if it's a transfer related matter, the costs that you have to incur depends on the disputed amount. But that's also more
Mhm.
affordable, I'd say, as compared to CAS. CAS is quite expensive for a lot of people, a lot of parties generally. FIFA, I would say, is much more affordable.
Okay. And talking about the issue that we discussed for the caste level, is it possible or even practical, from a practical point of view, that maybe sports federation or the government, or maybe even for that matter, private parties set up a fund which can be utilized by junior clubs, provided they satisfy certain eligibility criteria to get access to this fund, so that they do not face these financial hurdles while being able to sustain their operations or ensuring welfare for their athletes? Do you think it is practical?
Look, it is possible. That would be great, but I'm not sure who would be willing to provide such support. The thing is, when we talk about federations, let's say the example that I just mentioned, okay, and there have been other matters involving Indian clubs recently, like Interkashi appealed two
Right.
decisions of the appeal committee that's out there in the
Mhm.
public. CAS has issued the not the grounds, but at least the press release was issued, I think, a couple of months back. So in these cases, the club is filing an appeal to CAS against the order of the appeal committee of the AIFF or the relevant federation, and the federation is a party to the proceedings. Therefore, it is unlikely
Uh-huh.
the federation would provide financial support to the club to submit an appeal against their own decision. In fact, I feel federations in most cases would not want an appeal to happen in the first place.
Right. Yes.
So, of course, private parties, uh, uh, in theory, could support clubs, but again, I believe that clubs would have to find their own investors and such. Because generally, when you look at the general public at large, people have a lot of empathy for football players, athletes in
Mhm.
general, but not so much for clubs. Now,
Correct.
of
Yes.
course, clubs are guilty of wrongdoings on occasion, but it is also true that it's
Mhm.
not easy to run a football club, at least not in a country like India, where football is not very
Right.
popular. It's very difficult to uh, make money, if I
Mhm.
want to be very blunt, and an
Right.
issue clubs face all over the world. No, again, when we
Right.
talk about the football industry, we only look at the Premier League, maybe La Liga, Bundesliga, Italian Serie
Mhm.
A to a lesser extent. But that is again
Mhm.
like 5% or 10% of the football world. No, FIFA has
Correct. Yes.
more than 200 member countries. So
Right.
that is something you realize when you work as a lawyer or as a professional in the industry, that what we read in the news or what we watch on television is a very small part of the industry, right?
Right. Right. Correct. Just following up on a statement that you made, that uh, football in India is not at that level.
Yes.
Do you see a future where India uh, like moves away from being a one sport country and focuses more on non-cricketing sports, especially football, given the immense like I come from Jharkhand, Ranchi,
Right.
and my home, I think 800 meters from my home, we have one of the biggest East India football stadium.
Right.
And last year, I'd gone to the stadium to meet some of the officials, and it has not been managed well because there are no matches being played, because the athletes are not being developed at that level. Then 100 meters from that stadium, we have an AstroTurf,
Okay.
which is utilized only by the school students when they have the regional level tournament. And then there's a big ground where I see local people coming and playing football.
Okay.
So there, on one hand, there are facilities and resources, and on the other hand we have talent, but there's an absence of bridge to link these two things. So do you see in future India as a country moving away from being a very cricket focused country to these other immense talent focused sports?
Yeah, look, I mean, that's a very difficult question to answer, and it's a complicated issue, right? So I'll tell you what I feel about this. So I come from Calcutta. So football is
Right.
fairly popular. It's one of the few parts in the country where
Yeah.
football perhaps is not as popular as cricket, but is very close. In some sections, maybe football is more popular. Okay, but that's only the case perhaps in West Bengal, in Kerala, in Goa, and perhaps in some northeastern states. Rest of the country does not care all that much about football. So you have a lot of football fans, especially in metropolitan cities, but then they only
Mm-hmm.
watch the Premier League. They don't even watch other leagues. Premier League
Correct. Yeah.
and Barcelona and Real Madrid. That's it. Very few people watch the Bundesliga, or I'm a huge fan of. I've always been a fan of Italian football. How many people watch Serie A in India?
Right. Yeah.
So of course, people are not very. I mean, the majority of the population is not very interested in watching Indian football clubs either. That's unfortunate. But I feel, see, from a fan's perspective, there will be more interest if the national team starts doing better. It's as simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Look at javelin, for instance.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Neeraj, of course, has done amazingly well in the past 10 odd years, I'd say. Of
Right.
course, he could not finish in the podium in the World Athletic Championship, which is unfortunate. But I was reading somewhere that this has happened after 7 years. So,
Right. Yes.
man is extremely consistent. It's
Right.
incredible, that level of consistency. Now we have other athletes getting into the sports,
Mm-hmm.
which is a huge achievement. So, the way it generally works is that if there's better performance at the international level, either by an individual athlete or when you talk about team sports, if the national team starts doing better, more people take interest. So
Right.
I really don't know how we are going to achieve that. Of course, Indian national football team did really well recently. But that's
Correct.
just the
Yes.
beginning. I'm very optimistic about Khalid Jamil's tenure. I
Yes.
had the honor of, I'd say, advising Khalid on his contract, the international team contract.
Okay.
So
Right.
all the more reason for me to root for him. But anyhow, I mean, irrespective of that, whether I was involved or not, I would always root for the international team, right? So I'm hoping that we make some progress and there's more interest in the national team, which would also have a trickling down effect on the on club football as well. Because right now, the model that we see, honestly, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of progress in the past 10 years. No, I've been working in football since 2015 in some capacity or the other. I haven't seen a lot of progress. And even in terms of fan base and all, things have not uh, there's not been a major change, I would say. There have been some attempts to
Right.
work on grassroots and such. But again, if you even if you look at the performance of the national team or the performance of Indian players in general, has there been a
Mm-hmm.
significant difference in the past 10 years? Not really.
Yeah.
We are still having to call up Sunil Chetri. Sunil Chetri is a legend, don't get me wrong. I am a huge fan.
Right.
But the thing is, we should have found another centre forward by now. We are still
Right.
having to
Yeah.
rely on Chetri. Chetri, as a leader, of course, it's great that he's in the squad. But then there should be a younger player who could, you know, uh, take on his role, and then maybe Chetri could be
Mm-hmm.
an impact player or be in the squad as a leader. So
Correct. Yes.
I, of course, see this is something everyone says that more support needs to be provided at the grassroots level. Now, how that can happen is very difficult because we haven't really seen that happen. No, what the reasons behind that are is very complicated, and let's see what happens. I mean, I'm optimistic. A lot has happened of late. NSGA,
Right.
now the Supreme Court order is out regarding the AIFF constitution. Some directives have been issued. Let's see
Yeah.
if there's a difference. I have become a little cynical about Indian sports and especially Indian football of late. But want to be optimistic. But I'll reserve my judgment after seeing what really happens in the next couple of years. Let's say. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So you mentioned about one of the recent developments being the NHGA. What are your thoughts about the act? Do you think it will bring a transformational change in the Indian industry? What things will benefit from it? And yeah, let's deal with this first, and then I'll have another follow-up question.
Yeah, look, the point is at this juncture, it's very recent, so we can only speculate. I would say that yes, it's a step in the right direction, but a lot of work needs to be put in. The governance issues, see, I'm not really an expert when it comes to governance. Uh, the legal part is, I wouldn't say I'm an expert at that either, but at least I have some knowledge and experience. So if we
Right.
look at the, let's say, the National Sports Tribunal, for instance, again, it's a step in the right direction, perhaps, but I want to
Right.
see how things pan out. In theory, it's a
Right.
good idea, let's say, but then one major flaw that I've seen, for instance, is that the National Sports Tribunal will have three members, a three-member panel. I mean,
Right.
how? Let's assume that they are going to be extremely competent, efficient. They will have the will to make a difference, and they will also have uh, knowledge of the sports industry, of regulations and jurisprudence. Okay.
Mm.
But even if that is the case, how many matters could a three-member panel dispose of?
Right.
So then there are no procedural rules which have been issued as of now. I think
Correct. Yeah.
they will be formed. There will be a set of procedural rules once the NST is up and running. But again, let's see how it goes. In theory, you can have like a lot of systems in place, but at the end of the day, it needs to be implemented. Goes without saying, right? And
Correct. Yeah.
honestly, in all these years, I have not seen many people who actually have the will to make a difference to Indian sports, which is what is extremely unfortunate. Hopefully, things will change going forward. But in the past
Right.
10 years, I haven't, unfortunately, 10, 11 years actually, it's been since I've been working in Indian sports. It's been a little disappointing. So I will reserve my judgment till the time there's a
Right.
bit more clarity. Okay.
Absolutely. You mentioned about three-member tribunal, and I agree that it's quite a small number of members to resolve the dispute. Do you think athletes or former athletes or coaches should be a part of this tribunal? Because my understanding is we as lawyers or even for civil servants, we have a very theoretical understanding, and if uh, uh, like for you example, you love the sport and you are a lawyer, so you have some understanding of the sport as well. But for an athlete, they have a background knowledge. They might know the athlete personally. They might know the issue personally. They might have been involved at some stage in a dispute. So, do you think there should be an athlete representation at the dispute resolution level, at least under the NHGA in this tribunal that you mentioned?
Uh, Look, I mean, what I'm going to say might be a little controversial, but this is what I have seen in all these years. See, simply because someone has been an athlete does not mean that that person is going to be an efficient administrator or is not going to be corrupt. That is the presumption that
Right.
people
Yeah.
make. That okay, put former athletes in a committee, and they are going to do an amazing job. But the problem is that okay, once they are done with their careers, they also become politicians. No, I mean there's no
Right.
guarantee that a former athlete is going to be extremely successful. I mean, look at the current uh, president of the All India Football Federation. He was a very accomplished football player, but there are a lot of allegations against him. I don't want to say that he's corrupt
Right.
or whatever the case may be, but I'm just saying that there have been many allegations against him of corruption. And not only that, a lot of people question the way in which the AIFF has been run in the past few years. I was
Right.
looking through the order of the Supreme Court. I haven't had the chance to go through the entire thing, but it appears that it has been mandated that 15 athletes have to be the part of the former players have to be a part of the executive committee. Now, okay, perhaps it could be a welcome change,
Okay.
but there's no guarantee that a former athlete will be efficient or honest while performing their duties as an administrator or as a part of the tribunal. And see, with the tribunal, I think it depends. Let's say if you have a member panel, sorry, three member
Yeah.
panel or 5 member panel. One of them could be an athlete, but you do need people
Hmm.
with knowledge of law, who can
Right.
read the regulations, ideally are aware of the regulations, are aware of relevant jurisprudence, they are aware of how the industry functions. I do believe
Right.
that you need people with legal background, and also some knowledge and expertise and experience, ideally in
Right.
sports disputes. That is what I would say.
Okay.
I mean, we have that in place. I mean, the appeal committee of the AIFF, if you look at it, I'm not sure regarding
Mhm.
the current constitution, but earlier there used to be at least one football player. But generally, what you'd see is that this person would not play a very active role in the whole process. They would be there as a part of the committee, but then most of the
Mhm.
decision making was done by the chairperson, who would be someone with a legal background.
Okay. Um, One follow-up question, and this might be a bit of a kind of a stupid question, but you mentioned about this tribunal. So, will it be correct to understand that this is a, a like a replica of the CAS at the Indian level? Like, will it do the same thing that CAS does at the global level that this tribunal will do at the Indian level?
No, not at all. I think that a distinction needs to be made there. The matters that, firstly, if you look at, I think, section 20 of the NSGA, it has been clearly stated that matters which can be admitted before CAS, or the uh, dispute resolution tribunal of the relevant federation, those matters cannot be brought before the National Sports Tribunal. So,
Okay.
from what I understand, the NST will perform functions similar to that those of civil courts. So, let's
Okay.
say in the past we have seen that several matters, including matters involving elections of a national sports federation, have been taken to the Delhi High Court, for instance. Such matters can be
Right.
brought before the National Sports Tribunal. Or let's say if there's a
Okay.
dispute regarding the selection of an athlete for an international event like the Olympics,
Hmm. Right.
and there's a dispute between a particular athlete and the national federation, such a
Right.
matter can be brought before the NST. So it is not the Indian CAS at all, because this is not an arbitral tribunal.
Okay.
CAS is an arbitral tribunal at the end of the day.
Right. Yes. Yes.
This is this NST will perform the functions similar to that of a civil court and has the powers of the civil court, of a civil court as well. If you go to the
Okay.
NSGA, it means specifically stated that uh, an order issued by or an award issued by the NST will have the force similar to that of a civil court decree. So that is what
Right.
this serves to, um, s- let's say, uh, aspires to achieve. It is not an
Right.
arbitral tribunal similar to that of CAS or the other arbitral tribunals, similar arbitral tribunals that you see at the domestic level in UK or in Australia, in
Mhm.
Qatar, in Portugal, Brazil. It's very different to those arbitral
Right.
tribunals. I think this is quite unique. What they have found in
Okay.
India is very different from the other sports arbitral tribunal that you see in other parts of the world.
Okay. And do you think it will be beneficial or it will be good to have an arbitration authority in India, only for Indian issues? Because I believe in 2022 or 23, uh, a regional arbitration center was opened in Thailand, which was for the Asian countries, for this region. And when I came to know about that, I started researching if, and I have been trying to write a blog for the last 2 years on this. If if there's a requirement to have a national level arbitration authority in India, given the will to develop sports, the number of disputes in Indian sports, and as well as the lack of maybe understanding of like the particular issues in sports by the judges, because a civil court judge or a high court judge, uh, with all due respect, they have the best understanding of law, but they won't understand the factors that play a key role in sports. And given the short duration of an athlete's career, we can talk about 10, 15 years. Do you think it will be good to have a standalone arbitration authority in India for Indian athletes, and that might also solve the financial issue that we discussed earlier?
That is, of course, could be an excellent option. And I don't disagree with you. I mean, again, with all due respect, the, let's say, retired judges of high courts or other district courts, again, I don't think I'm competent or experienced enough to question their knowledge or expertise in law. But yeah, when it comes to sports, and I say this from personal experience, it can be quite problematic. Okay, I've not had a very good experience. I could say appearing before such people over the years. Now the thing is, uh, since you are also writing an article, look at how the uh, how sports resolutions, I think is the name of the body in UK, functions. Okay, I
Right.
think India could have such an arbitral tribunal in place, but, and this is a question to you, how do you think it would be possible to enforce the awards issued by such a sports arbitral tribunal?
Right. Yes.
What is your idea?
That's a
How
key
would
point.
it be enforced? No, because how are CAS awards enforced? CAS awards are enforced because CAS is recognized as an appellate authority in the
Right.
FIFA statutes and
Mm-hmm.
also in the statutes of national sports federations, including the
Okay.
AIFF and most other sports, I would say, which is what gives
Right.
CAS authority. So if CAS
Mm-hmm.
issues an award against an Indian club, they have the obligation to comply with it. Otherwise, they'll be sanctioned by FIFA. Okay.
Right.
So this National Sports Tribunal that we are discussing, how would their awards be enforced? That is the question. No. So one way could be that it could be through the Arbitration Conciliation Act, but that would also require you to go to civil courts to get it enforced, which will
Correct.
eventually delay proceedings. So the whole
Right. Yes.
point regarding speedy resolution is not really being solved. The
Right. Yes.
other way could potentially be to ensure that all national sports federations agree to uh, respect the awards issued by this domestic sports tribunal. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if all national sports federations would agree to do that. Again, the government would need to put quite a bit of pressure on them, I suppose, threaten to um, not provide funds, etc., etc. But it appears that we have not gone, we haven't not taken that route. No, we are going with the NST,
Right.
which has very different functions. It's not a sports
Correct. Yes.
arbitral tribunal. So let's see, how things go. I think one major issue that, let's be honest here, we don't have a lot of people in this country who could uh, uh, serve as arbitrators. No, how many people are there in
Right.
India at this juncture who have the adequate amount of experience, skill, and knowledge in sports, who could potentially be arbitrators? No, so that's also a challenge.
Right. Yes.
I think that's something we could, uh, if we are being realistic, that's something which could happen in the next 10, 15 years. As people who are already in the industry for like 5, 10, 15 years gain more experience, more people come in that regard,
Correct.
I think my experience has been very positive because there's a lot of interest in working in the Indian sports industry in the past, at least
Mm.
7, 8 years. That's what I've observed. So I think that's good. The more professionals you have, the better it is for the industry. No?
Right. Right. Thank you. Uh, I've been reading a lot of news articles, and there's an app called InShot which gives you a news within 60 words.
Right.
And I've seen a lot of buzz around ISL, whether it will be held this year,
Yeah.
whether the league will be scraped off, the players not being paid their salary. Can you in brief just tell us what is the whole issue about, and what is the current standing on, like, what's happening around it?
Yeah. So, FSDL, which is, of course, essentially Reliance, it's a subsidiary of Reliance, entered into a master rights agreement with the All India Football Federation back in 2015. Okay. So, in
Okay.
accordance with this MRA, FSDL was given certain authority, commercial rights, plus also the right to organize the league, the Indian Super League, and all of that. Okay. So, of course, I don't wish to get into the details. That would take up a lot of time. But long story short, the MRA is going to expire in December 2025, in a few months. So, of course, it needs to be renewed because at this juncture, the Indian
Hmm.
Super League is run by FSDL, correct? In partnership with
Right.
the EIFF. Now, uh,
Hmm.
in the meantime, there is a matter which has been ongoing for a while before this has been pending for the Supreme Court for a while, regarding several issues. One of those is the AIFF constitution. So yesterday,
Okay.
today is the 20th of September. Yesterday, a decision was passed by the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has instructed the AIFF to finalize the constitution within 4 weeks, if I remember correctly. Okay. There are a lot of other
Hmm.
issues as well. This is one, that the constitution needs to be finalized. Number two, the Supreme Court has decided that there's not going to be any change in the administration, administrative bodies of the AIFF because their tenure anyhow is going to expire in 1 year. So they don't wish to intervene. So Kalyan Chowdhury will remain the president, and the other office bearers will
Okay.
also stay in power for till the end of the tenure, which expires next year. Number three is the Supreme Court has instructed the AIFF to have relegation and promotion in at all levels, because what happens right now at the ISL is that there is promotion. So clubs from I League, which is the second division, can get promoted to the ISL, but clubs from
Hmm.
the ISL cannot get relegated. Now, this was
Okay.
also mentioned in the master rights agreement that is going to expire soon. Because when
Hmm.
the ISL was formed, initially the clubs had an agreement with the FSDL that they cannot get relegated for 10 years. Okay. So
Okay.
all these things need to be renegotiated. The Supreme
Hmm.
Court has also stated that the Indian Super League, or whichever the top division in Indian football is, needs to be primarily run and organized by the AIFF. Now they can have commercial partners, but this commercial partner, whether it be FSDL or some other company, they would have limited rights. They
Right.
cannot have any rights regarding the governance or structuring of the league and all of that. Okay.
Hmm.
So of course, all these issues need to be ironed out, and
Correct.
this is what this is one of the things which has been causing a delay in the MRA being renewed between the AIFF and the ISL. Consequently,
Hmm.
what we are seeing is that clubs are uncertain as to the start date or as to whether the league is going to happen or not. I believe
Hmm.
that the league will happen. Perhaps it will start a bit later. Anyhow, the Super Cup is going to happen,
Okay.
I think, in October. Because there's uncertainty
Okay.
regarding the Indian Super League, the Super Cup, which is a cup competition. That's going to happen start in October, November. So perhaps the ISL will start in January. Hopefully, the AIFF and the FSDL can resolve these issues and renew the master
Right.
rights agreement so that there's a bit of clarity. Because yeah, I mean you're right. A lot of clubs are withholding the salaries of the players, and they are quite stressed
Right.
out, understandably so. Some
Correct.
clubs
Yes.
are paying or have recently paid the players, but some clubs have not yet done so or are paying partial salaries. So it's a stressful situation
Hmm.
for athletes, as you can imagine. I mean, they are not certain as to whether the league would even happen. I mean, I was
Correct. Yes.
a player a few weeks back, and he's a top player, like national team, very experienced player, and he's super stressed. He was asking me
Mm.
what if the league doesn't happen. He had a lot of questions, just he was trying to
Mm-hmm.
understand what his position is and what remedies he could potentially have. And he's very concerned about the fact that what if they don't pay us at all? If the league doesn't happen and they don't pay us at all, how am I going to manage? And I was telling him, look,
Right.
I mean, you are like one of the top players in India. Now,
Right.
if I think you are going to be fine because
Right. Yes.
you know it's very unlikely that the club will try to terminate your contract, and some football will happen one way or the other. Unlikely that no football happens in India. I
Mm.
would be more concerned about the other 90 clients that I have, who are not
Correct. Yes.
uh, at your level. I mean, so yeah, I mean, it's not a pleasant situation. The industry is not doing well at all. There are a lot of overdue payables. Clubs are not paying players. Clubs are not paying agents. As a result of that, we also not getting paid because our clients are not getting paid. So it's been a bit of a
Right. Yes.
past 2-3 months. Everyone has
Mm-hmm.
a lot of pending dues, let's say. So people are quite
Right.
really stressed out. So we are all hoping that things get resolved sooner rather than later. So that's the crux of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, Indian Premier League and Indian Super League. These are two leagues when it comes to like one of the biggest commercial leagues or the biggest commercial sports leagues in India.
Yeah.
On one hand, we see IPL, which has grown exponentially.
Yes.
Yes, given that India is a cricket-loving sport, and it has been backed by some of the biggest names. On the other hand, we have ISL, a football league, which has been facing issues at some point of time. So, uh, uh, so Indian football has been facing issues, whether it be governing issues or these commercial issues. In your understanding, what are the more pressing issues that needs to be solved before another uh, such scenario comes where there's an uncertainty on the future of the sport? What are other upcoming issues that you foresee or that need to be solved beforehand?
No, absolutely. See, like we were discussing earlier, I mean, a, a lot has happened in Indian sports from a legal perspective or governance perspective in the past 3 months. I would say the
Right,
NSGA, the Supreme Court decision regarding the FF elections, and other things as well. So perhaps we could consider being a bit optimistic, but let's see how things pan out. I think, of course, see, it goes without saying that there needs to be more transparency.
hmm,
You need people with the will to make a difference. That's something I have stated quite a few times because, again, unfortunately, I
right,
have not come across a lot of people who are performing administrative duties who wish to make a real difference to Indian sports. That needs to
right,
change. Now, how that is going to change, I do not know because what is the solution to corruption really? No, I
right.
mean,
Yes,
it's very difficult. You can put uh, systems in place, which I hope uh, has been done to a certain extent with the passing of the NSGA. And when we talk specifically about football, the new constitution and such. But whether there is going to be actual change is something which remains to be seen. So that is a
correct.
part
Yes.
of it. So uh,
Mhm.
corruption is corruption, incompetence, lack of will to make a difference has affected Indian football for over the years. If we put it very bluntly, is that going to change? Let's hope so. Okay, let's hope for the best. Whatever we
Right,
can do from our end, we should try to do. Sometimes I feel quite helpless, honestly. I mean, as a practicing lawyer, perhaps I can make some a small change especially when it comes to representing athletes and such. But that at the end of the day,
right,
you feel helpless if you see rampant corruption or incompetence at the administrative level or even at the at like tribunals and such. The other part which I had mentioned earlier that perhaps we need a bit of fortune when it comes to the national team. Some good performances here,
right. Correct. Yes.
Jamil does a great job with the national team in the next couple of years. India does something
Mm-hmm.
positive at the international level. A few wins here and
Right.
grind out a few draws against bigger teams. Uh, that could make a substantial difference. More people
Correct. Yes.
will start taking interest in football, perhaps. Because, see, at the end of the day,
Right.
sports fans are glory hunters. Okay? I
Right.
mean,
Yes.
that is the truth. People want to follow a
Right.
team, whether that be a cricket team, whether it's a national team or like a franchisee or a club, if it's successful. No, you have a
Right.
Chennai
Yes.
Super Kings jersey behind you. CSK is a very is a franchise which has done really well because a big reason behind that is it's also been extremely successful. No, CSK
Correct.
and
Yes.
Mumbai Indians and KKR, these are the most successful franchises in the IPL. I'm not sure about the numbers, but I think
Mm-hmm.
these three definitely have done very well commercially as well over the years.
Yeah.
And success plays a huge role in that. So
Right.
both things need to happen. Unfortunately, as fans of Indian sports or fans of Indian football, there's only so much that we could do. Let's see how things pan out
Right.
in the next
Correct.
4 or 5 years.
Uh, uh, just following up on one phrase that you use, that Indian fans or even any sports fan, they chase glory. Uh, uh, a couple of months back, there was a news article which said that Messi would be coming to India in December this year, and then there'll be a friendly match between maybe Argentina and another star-studded teams with cricketers like Virat Kohli and MS Dhoni. Do you think this mentality needs to change, that if a footballer is coming, he needs to play with Indian footballers and not with the star-studded? Because that is somewhere that we see our Indian footballers facing a higher level athlete. This is one part of the question. Second part of the question, I have hardly seen my friends who are football lovers wearing the jersey of an Indian football club. I've seen them wearing Real Madrid jersey, Barcelona jersey. But do you think there needs to be a mindset change as well, that if you want your country to do well or your state's club to do well, you need to support them. And yes, at the end of the day, the club has to perform, but you need to support them at the same time. So both need to go hand in hand.
Yeah. So coming to the first question, see, I mean, these are like purely commercial endeavors. I don't think it's going to help Indian football or uh, what you mentioned. See, playing one game against Messi and a strong team is not going to make a huge difference anyhow. To be honest, you need uh,
Hmm.
consistent games. Also, not with the best teams in the world, perhaps with teams which are at India's
Right.
level or maybe ideally slightly better level. Teams ranked between
Correct.
50
Yeah.
to 100,
Right.
let's say. Because now, if India goes and plays
Hmm.
against Argentina or Spain, the team will get thrashed. Let's be let's be real. I don't think it's going to help Indian football all that much. But yeah, consistent games are required against quality teams. That is the
Right.
reality. But again, I mean, Messi has come to India before. He's played in Calcutta. I think there was a match. I don't remember
Right.
what it was, 2015 or 16.
Mm.
There was a friendly match between
Right.
Argentina and Venezuela. It did not make any difference to Indian football. And it won't. One match, yeah, okay, it's a commercial venture, which is great. Something's happening in India. I won't complain about it. I won't say that, oh, this is bad. No, there's nothing wrong with it. It's great that an event is
Hmm.
happening, but that's pretty much it. A
Right.
legendary rock band coming and playing in India is not going to make any difference to Indian music, but it's still an event which people can attend
Correct.
and enjoy, right? Uh, so that's how I see it. Uh, the question regarding uh, fans of Indian football, right? That's what your question was essentially. See, I mean,
Right.
again, as a purist, let's say, you can judge people for not supporting their local club or only rooting for clubs in Europe. But at the end of the day, you need to understand that it's a choice that people have, and
Right. Yes.
sports is something. I love sports. I'm assuming you love sports as well. But not everyone has to love sports, right?
Correct.
As
Yes.
things stand, sports faces a lot of competition when it comes to
Right.
getting attention. There's like n number of OTTs. There are like reels on Instagram.
Right.
A lot of things sports has to compete with. When I was growing up, uh, most of my entertainment was sports. I would watch cricket,
Right. Yes.
football, F1, NBA, whatnot. Sometimes I would watch
Right.
golf. Okay, I think now there are more options as well. Kids have more options. You have
Right.
like video games and whatnot. So that's something the entire industry is concerned about. Uh, and regarding supporting Indian clubs, honestly, Ishaan, I don't know what the way forward is. Of course, you could clubs do try to organize events and such, but it takes
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time to build a fan base. No, see,
Correct. Yes.
I have been a fan of Mohun Bagan, and I do have a jersey. Thankfully,
Mm-hmm.
they have started selling jerseys. No, I mean for the longest time, you
Mm-hmm.
could not find a Mohun Bagan jersey like an original jersey.
Right.
Now, at least you can go on the Skechers website and buy a jersey. It's a very
Right. Right.
easy process. So I order a
Mm-hmm.
jersey, at least one jersey each year. Earlier, that wasn't the case. So some progress. No, because earlier fans who wanted to buy jerseys could not. You have to buy like a
Right.
fake jersey from some local market, which was not of a very good quality, and of course the money was not going to the club, right? Uh,
Mhm.
but then I don't know how Indian fans are going to attract new Indian clubs are going to attract new fans. For me, I have been
Right.
a fan of Mohun Bagan since I was 5
Mm.
because my father
Right.
was a fan.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was a fan. Uh,
Right.
but that is not the case with a lot of people. So if you grow up in a
Right.
city, let's say you grew up in Delhi, there's not a lot of there are not a lot of football fans there. Then there's no
Correct.
like
Yes.
historical club there. So
Mm-hmm.
which club do you support?
Right.
I think we have seen some progress with newer clubs. Kerala Blasters has a pretty good fan base,
Correct.
almost
Yes. Yes.
what 12-year-old club. Mumbai City FC has a fan base. FC Goa is doing fairly well. So it takes time as well, no? So let's say,
Correct.
of course, cricket is different. Cricket
Mm-hmm.
is an absolutely different story. I support KKR because I'm from Calcutta. Okay.
Right.
You support CSK because of Dhoni. No, but they're not.
Correct. Yes.
You don't have like such icons in Indian football. No, there's no like. I
Right. Yes.
mean, Chetri is incredible. He is an icon, but
Mm-hmm.
let's say you cannot compare the influence that someone like Dhoni or Virat Kohli or even Rohit Sharma has, or let's say, of course, Sachin and
Correct.
Dravid and Ganguly, these players had to that of someone like Sunil Chhetri or even Baichung Bhotia and such. No, so that's a problem.
Right.
But maybe again, like I mentioned earlier, I think if the national team starts doing slightly better, maybe you'll see more fans. How did cricket become so popular in India? It was after the 83 World Cup. India won the World Cup.
Correct. Yes.
India became like,
Mm-hmm.
Indians became crazy about cricket.
Right.
Earlier, football was quite big. In the 60s and 70s, football was extremely popular.
Correct.
India had a very good national team. But India won the World Cup, Cricket World Cup in 83, and people are like, okay, we only care about cricket because that's something we can win. And
Right.
there
Yes.
was a downfall in Indian football as well. Now, again, I'm not saying that there needs to be a downfall in Indian cricket for Indian football to do better. There's plenty of scope for Indian football.
Right.
It's just that we need better performance. People need to have more faith in the governing body. The clubs need to market themselves perhaps a bit better. But see, I'm a bit disappointed because I haven't seen a lot of progress in the past 11, 12 years. But does not mean that it cannot happen.
Okay.
If you look at European clubs, I'm a fan of
Right.
AC Milan. When was AC Milan formed? 1889. Okay. So, so if you look at European clubs, most of them are more than 100 years old. Even Indian clubs like
Right. Yes.
Mohun Bagan, East Bengal, and Mohammedan. Sporting are more than 100 years old. So they have a pretty decent fan base, right? Mohun Bagan will always have a fan base, even if there's a change in ownership, whatever the case may be, because it's
Mm.
like it's family tradition in a way, so
Correct.
uh,
Yes.
so newer clubs, it'll take them a while longer to build a fan base. That can only
Right.
happen
Right.
through better national team performance, and if you can make the league a little more attractive, people will take interest, But I don't see a major change happening in the next 2 years, let's say. But maybe in the next 10
Okay.
years, we may
Mm-hmm.
see football grow in popularity. Maybe not get
Right.
to the level that cricket has managed to uh, achieve, but hopefully somewhere close. That's the best we could hope.
Right.
For that, we need to uh, do everything in a proper manner. That starts with governance, marketing, grassroots development, all of that. And again, a bit of fortune, where Indian national team
Yes.
causes a few upsets here and there, and people are more motivated and inspired to follow Indian football. That is what is
Right.
required.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. It has been a nice conversation. Before you go, I have two more segments. One would be student focused. For a student wanting to build a career in sports law, what would be your advice to them? Because when I was a law student, I remember I contacted you, I contacted Tarun sir, I interned under him, but there was still a lack of knowledge and again, lack of opportunities as well.
Right.
So, what would be your advice to someone who wants to build a career in this field?
Yeah, I mean, see, if you want to work in sports, the earlier you start, the better. Again, you need not dedicate your entire life to this pursuit. Let's say you're a third year student or second or third year student. You need not only be focused on sports law, be pragmatic. There are not a lot of
Right.
opportunities in sports, and it's a niche industry. No sports law
Right.
firm is going to hire hundreds of lawyers. So, no matter how competent you are, you need a bit of fortune in the sense that even if you do everything right, you may not get a job because there was no opening, right? The things that you
Correct.
could do is, of course, write articles, attend
Mhm.
webinars and workshops, courses, enroll for a course. There's several such opportunities available these days, and it's very different from what I had faced when I was in law school between 2009 to 14. A lot more is happening. There are moods
Mhm.
that happen. There are two decent international moods: the sports arbitration mood, which is organized by FIFA. Then there's one called sports law arbitration mood, which is organized by Law and Sport, based out of the UK.
Mhm.
You could enroll for those. A lot of Indian law schools, I've seen in the recent years, have enrolled for such moods. I have had the
Right. Yes.
pleasure of coaching some of these teams as well for the mood. That could be an opportunity. Internships, of course, be on the lookout for internships. Again, it's not very easy to find internships in India because there are limited
Right.
opportunities available. So, for instance, I try to provide internships to students, but I don't want to take 6, 7 interns each month.
Correct.
Take
Mhm.
1 or 2 interns each month, and I want them to work with us, like really work with us,
Right.
not just give them some
Right.
research work and ask them to draft up like 2 research notes in the course of a month. I don't think that makes much sense. So when I take someone on board, I give them real work,
Right.
reviewing, drafting
Right.
contracts, working on real disputes. I think it's a better experience for the intern and for us as well. It's good for our practice because interns can be very, very capable, right? They can be a huge asset, and they have been
Right. Right.
in my practice over the years. I have
Right.
some interns who have done extremely well, and I'm very proud of the fact that many of them are doing very, very well now. They are working at federations or law
Mhm.
firms around the world. So it's been great in
Right.
that regard. So yes, these are the things that you could do, and of course, stay in touch with the industry. Try to follow whatever updates come your way. Like a lot is happening, right? Something or the other keeps happening. Even if you look only at football, in the
Correct.
past one year, there have been a lot of events that have transpired. Whether we talk about the Diarra
Mm-hmm.
judgment, the dispute between FIFA and the football agents, at the national level, there have been
Right.
quite a few cases. This case involving Anwar Ali was in the news. These Interkashi matters, a lot of people have talked about. Now we have the NSGA, then the Supreme Court decision.
Mm-hmm.
So even at the uh, if you only look at like the legal aspects, a lot has happened in the recent past, and
Right.
something or the
Right.
other keeps happening. It's very dynamic, the
Right.
football industry. So stay up to date with these things. What I see is
Okay.
that, uh, of course, when someone applies for internship, I expect them to have some knowledge of these things. It need not be in-depth
Right.
knowledge, but you should be somewhat aware. If that is not the case, it's a bit
Right.
problematic. No, I mean, you
Correct.
should
Correct.
not get into the sports industry simply because you're a sports fan. That is
Right. Right.
how it begins, of course. You want to get into sports because you're a fan, but you also need to be uh, interested in other aspects, the business part of it, the legal part of it, all of that, because that's what you're going to do. You're not
Correct.
going to watch football
Right.
or cricket on TV at work, or just attend
Right.
games or get selfies clipped with famous athletes. I think some people have
Right. Right.
an idea that, oh, this is what sports law is, attending games and
Right.
selfies clicked, but no, I mean, that's not what it is at all. So you need to
Okay.
understand what your work is going to be.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insight. That's been a nice conversation from someone who has been working in this area for quite some time now. I thank you again for accepting our invitation. It was really nice talking to you. I'm sure you enjoyed the session, and I'm sure our audience would learn something from it, whether they be athletes or law students.
Absolutely, sure. It's
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And yeah, I mean, I always enjoy talking about sports. Hopefully, it will be enjoyable for the viewers as well.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.